Why are estate agents afraid of the telephone? Today I'm joined by Rob Smith, boss man of Whitegates and Hunters. 150, 160 branches he's responsible for. He's been in the estate agency 20, 30 years and he knows his onions. Rob, when you and I were a lad in the 90s, we used to have to pick up the phone. There was no email, there was no internet. Why are we so afraid of this bad boy? Talk to me.
Why are we so afraid of the telephone?
We are, because this is the best piece of prop tech around.
It is amazing. It is, and when you go back, we didn't have mobile phones even until they bought that massive chunky brick out that everyone thought they were cool for having.
Yeah, and my first plan had 75 minutes a month, and for if you went 1 second over the minute, it took the whole minute.
Yeah. I think it's because it's too easy not to. And my kids communicate consistently on TikTok, on Snapchat, on WhatsApp, and those forms of communication have spiraled out of control.
Well, it's text message, isn't it?
It's too easy. It's too easy. And the conversations are quick. They're instant. And I think that and they're too easy. So actually, the population has grown up. I sound like my dad. Population has grown up with an easier way to communicate, a faster way to communicate, a funner way to communicate, and therefore they've stopped talking to each other.
What would your message be to, let's be honest, most negs by the very nature of their role are going to be in their 20s. What would your message be to any estate agency bosses who are in their 40s and 50s, and I know there are younger bosses, who need to teach and guide and develop their team on not being afraid of this?
I think it's lead by example. I think it's sit there yourself and pick the phone up and show somebody how you can have a good conversation with somebody where you get multiple good results from it, rather than just one hit on a text or one hit on a WhatsApp, and that person goes away. The person on the other end of the phone goes away far more either enlightened or trusted. They trust you more. You've been able in that conversation to make that customer feel you know them. It's very difficult to do that. You'd have to send multiple text messages and they might be taken the wrong way and you never know where it goes. So I think it's just a case of creating your own culture and sitting there, showing them how to do it, getting them to realise it's not as difficult or as embarrassing or as awkward as they think. And as soon as they start doing it well, they'll keep doing it and they'll get results from it.
There's a lot of people are afraid because they don't get anything from the phone call, like a listing or a... What would your message be to those people? What should be the motivation of the phone call? Is it to get something or give something?
I think the aim is to eventually get something, for want of a better phrase. The time scale of getting it is the key. So I think sometimes I've experienced that too much pressure is put on that individual call to get a result from it. And therefore the
valuation or an FS lead
or a viewing or an FS or a convey, and therefore the person's a bit tense. So the negotiator or the valuer or whoever, they're a bit tense in making the call. They're on edge. They're probably a bit worried about how they're going to pitch it to the customer. They're worried the customer's going to... Yeah. They're worried that what the customer will say and say no. So
conflict. Well, a lot of the younger generation don't like conflict.
Absolutely don't like conflict. The reality of it is there's a time and a place. And if it takes 2 or 3 calls to get the end result that you want, or it takes 2 or 3 months to get the end result that you want, it doesn't matter. It's much more beneficial, A, for the customer from a relationship perspective, but B, from a member of staff, to have less pressurised phone calls, but more of them, because the nature of the beast, the more touch bases we have with customers, the more they remember you, the more likely to say yes.
Indeed. And the wonderful thing is now that there is software out there, AI software, that can listen in onto the call and then type all the notes up and automatically put reminders in and actually talk about how sympathetic the phone call is.
Yeah.
It's amazing technology.
It's
So we
crazy.
can use technology,
Yeah.
but we still have to apply it and be the people business, don't we?
I think you'd be mad not to use the technology, but I think the business has become over reliant on the technology because of the state of a positive housing market. You didn't really need to use the
Hot
the
boxes.
conversation.
Remember the old days?
Applicant cards and hot boxes. You didn't need to use those. You didn't need to keep talking to somebody to see what else they were looking at because the house that you'd got has sold or the property you're let in has gone. The reality of it is the longer you're in the business, the more you realise it's about building a relationship over a long period of time with that customer who may not do business with you this time, but may do next time because of the conversations and the
Or
relationships
because
you built.
trust is transferable, might recommend you to your friends. Because,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I think as soon as we realise that as estate agents, go out there, give great advice, help people without any expectation of anything in return, play the long game, we'll win.
And you'll surprise the customer because the customer is waiting for you to try and sell something to them. So just by not selling to them,
And getting them to buy.
And then maybe leaving it today and calling them in 3 days' time or a week's time or 2 weeks' time, maybe doing that gets the result where the customer comes and buys from you instead of you trying to sell awkwardly.
Thank you for your time today, Rob.
It's a pleasure.